It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre here in the NEC Front Row Studios on the eve of Week 12. We started back in July. We've marched through the season and we're almost at the finish line. 3 Northeast Conference games remain in the regular season schedule. It will all wrap up this Saturday, November 21st. Central Connecticut has a bye. They are done for the season. The 6 other league teams, including St. Francis and Duquesne, will duke it out on the gridiron. I will tell you all about the schedule next in our No Huddle preview. We start at the top of the docket with what has become a true Northeast Conference championship game. Duquesne and St. Francis head into Week 12 with 4-1 league records. The winner of this one will be crowned Northeast Conference champion and will secure the league's automatic bid to the Division I FCS playoffs. Before it became a championship game, this one was billed as a rivalry game. 2 Keystone State rivals separated by just about a 90-minute drive on Route 22. A lot of familiarity between these 2 programs, from the players to the coaches to the fans. A lot of mutual friendships. For as close as these 2 programs are, they've played 3 close games in the past 3 seasons. The home team has won each of the past 3 meetings. St. Francis U won in Loretto last year. Duquesne hosted the 2 prior meetings, triumphing on the Bluff both times. But that's in the past. And these 2 teams are focusing on what lies ahead, the possibility of capturing the program's first ever playoff bid. Now, diving deeper into the matchup, which will provide our NEC football on ESPN3 game of the week, we see a number of the nation's best on both sides. National leaders everywhere. First, we look at Duquesne. They have the 7th ranked scoring defense in the country, leading the NEC, allowing only 15.9 points per outing. One of the reasons why is a ferocious linebacker, Christian Kuntz. He missed all of the 2014 season due to injury, but he has come back with a vengeance this year, shot out of a cannon. 20.5 tackles for a loss. That's tied for second in all of Division I FCS. He's joined in the linebacking core by another fellow ball hawk, veteran Sam Martello. Then, of course, there's the big fellow up front, nose tackle Zach Zidian, just to name a few of the key cogs on the Duquesne defense. Over on the St. Francis side, well, they have 2 of the nation's best specialists. Place kicker Lance Giese ranks atop the national leaderboard in field goal percentage success rate, 94.1%. He has made 16 of 17 field goal attempts this year. With his next field goal, he will tie the Northeast Conference career record. Making SFU's special teams even more special is return man Lorenzo Jerome. He's taken 2 kicks to the house this year, 1 on the road at East Tennessee State and 1 at CAA member Towson. 32.9 yards per kickoff return average, and guess what? That's first in the nation. So between all of the prime performers, all of what's at stake, you are not going to want to miss this one. It's St. Francis at Duquesne, November 21st, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, live on ESPN3 and your Watch ESPN app. Paul Dottino, Kevin Gilbride, and John Schmelk will bring you all of the action as the Northeast Conference crowns its 2015 champion on the Bluff in Pittsburgh. Moving on to matchup number 2, while St. Francis and Duquesne battle in downtown Pittsburgh, just outside of the city in Moon Township, it will be Bryant against Robert Morris, wrapping up the 2015 campaign at Joe Walton Stadium. Although both teams have been eliminated from title contention, they are still hungry for a victory this week. This East meets West rivalry really started back in 2010 when the Bryant Bulldogs, only in their second season as an NEC member, defeated Robert Morris in the season finale, knocking the Colonials out of the top 25 at the time. As the years have transpired, these two teams have played some great games against one another. That's something that Bryant head coach Marty Fine hasn't forgotten.
We're going to go out there with the very best of intentions. We are comfortable with how we travel. We have played well in this particular stadium. They have been very close games for the most part. Last year we got away from them a little bit.
Now for Bryant's success in this one, it will all start with Rico McCray. The senior tailback is having a phenomenal season, leading the Northeast Conference with 1,180 rushing yards. Then there's the Bryant passing game. Quarterback Dalton Easton is the NEC leader in both passing yards and passing touchdowns. He's thrown 20 scoring strikes this season. Between McCray and the potent passing attack, Robert Morris's defense will have its hands full on Saturday. But the Colonials have a defensive unit that Bryant head coach Marty Fine has great respect for.
They play really well on the defensive side. They're long and fast. Their corner is a 6'1" on one side. The other side is not as tall, but he's got muscles as big as your head. They really have good players on defense, and they played very well. They're the second best defense. We're only giving up 320 yards a game. People are not scoring against them.
Now, as for that Robert Morris defense, it features the top 2 leading tacklers in the Northeast Conference. Veteran Jake Tack and fellow linebacker Mike Stokovic are numbers 1 and 2 in the rankings, averaging more than 8 tackles per game apiece. Playing in front of Tack and Stokovic is one of the NEC's most potent pass rushers. It's veteran lineman Forrest Mason. 7 sacks this season, that's tied for number 1 in the NEC. Mason is a guy who has kept Bryant's Marty Fine up at night.
Their defensive end has just given us fits. He's the leading sacker in the league. Forrest Mason, number 90. We have trouble blocking him and have for years. He overwhelms our tight ends.
So will the Robert Morris defense bottle up Bryant, or will the Bulldogs end 2015 on a high note? The answer will come on Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, NEC Front Row. Now our final matchup on the Week 12 docket. It's 2 teams coming off noteworthy victories. It's Wagner at Sacred Heart. Last week at home, Wagner broke into the win column, putting together an all-around effort to take down CCSU by a 28-7 margin. Meanwhile, up in Smithfield, Sacred Heart, the 2-time defending NEC champion, was busy spoiling senior day for Bryant. The Pioneers' 28-19 victory knocked the Bulldogs out of title contention and gave SHU head coach Mark Nofri something to smile about. Now, as for the matchup on the field at Sacred Heart, there will be a Wagner team that has kick-started its run game. Otis Wright ran wild last week, a career-high 193 yards, averaging 8 yards per clip. Those 193 yards, that's an NEC single-game season high. Then there's quarterback Alex Thompson. He's never afraid to tuck it and run. He had this 40-yard scoring scamper in the win over CCSU in Week 11. He's netted more than 320 yards on the ground this season. That's not too bad for a big-bodied quarterback. Now over to the Sacred Heart side. The Pioneers defense produced some key stops at Bryant last week when needed. That is despite the fact that injuries have depleted that unit as the year transpired. Sacred Heart, though, they have some prideful players, and Coach Nofri has instilled a whatever-it-takes mentality. To that end, you see two senior receivers, Tyler Doobie and Moses Webb, contributing on the defensive side. That's right, Doobie and Webb are throwbacks, old school, playing both ways because their team needs it. Last week, Webb swatted away a potential game-tying two-point conversion. Then late in the game, Tyler Doobie went in at cornerback. He drew an offensive pass interference penalty. He made a tackle, and he recovered a fumble. Win, lose, or draw on Saturday, one thing is quite clear. This Sacred Heart senior class, led by Moses Webb and Tyler Doobie, they have carved out a legacy for themselves. Watch their final game on Front Row this Saturday. All right, folks, it's my last one of the season. I'm calling the Twitter timeout. And because you've been so loyal to the show over this season, because I know you, just like me, love Twitter, I'm giving you not one, but two tweets today. Both tweets are related to this week's NEC Championship game. We have one from M. Caputo. Michael Caputo. Red Flash fans certainly know this name. Caputo was a star receiver about a decade ago in Loretto. To this day, he still holds the NEC single-season record for receiving yards with more than 1,400. You better believe that he wants to see his alma mater secure its first ever Northeast Conference crown. Then on the other side, it's former Duquesne center Nick Redden. Redden picked up a couple of all-NEC selections during his time on the Bluff. He was also part of two NEC championship teams. The Dukes shared the title in 2011 and 2013. Redden, however, did not get a chance to play in the FCS playoffs as the Dukes lost out on the head-to-head tiebreaker in both of those seasons. Redden, a Western Pennsylvania native, has a brother who played for St. Francis, but you'd better believe that on this Saturday, he's going to put them up for his Dukes. Caputo, Redden, they're going to be watching on ESPN3 this Saturday. Make sure you are too. And here we go. It's time for some X's and O's. The two subjects of this segment will do battle in the NEC title game. First, on offense, we take a look at Duquesne wide receiver Wayne Capers, a former FBS transfer from the Pac-12's Arizona Wildcats. Capers has become quite comfortable on the Bluff. In fact, when teams focus too much on Duquesne's preseason All-American receiver Chris King, Capers makes them pay. He has 40 catches for 619 yards and 5 touchdowns this year. All of those numbers rank amongst the top 10 in the Northeast Conference. He's averaging 4 catches per game, 15.5 yards per catch. It's not just King. The SFU secondary will have to find a way to contain Capers as well. Now over on the defensive side, we take a look at veteran cornerback Daquan Minter. St. Francis features the NEC's top-ranked pass defense, and Minter, of course, is one of the reasons why. The cover corner has made 12 career interceptions. That's tied for second most amongst Division I FCS active career leaders. He has 1 pick and 10 pass breakups this season, and that's despite missing 3 non-conference games. He started the last 5 games, though, and he is expected to be on the field Saturday for what will be the biggest game in St. Francis U football history. All right, so there you have it, the Week 12 docket. A lot is at stake. We have the NECFB on ESPN3 Game of the Week, and that will decide the 2015 champion. I want to thank you all for joining us this season on the Whole 9 Yards. It's truly a pleasure, folks. I'm Ralph Ventre, and I want to remind you, enjoy the games on Saturday. Until next time, this was the Whole 9 Yards.